Welcome back to the Wilderness Protocol. I keep the list in my kitchen drawer, right next to the takeout menus and dead batteries. 23 names typed on Vatican letterhead, each one followed by a date of death and a brief description. The paper smells like old incense and gunpowder. Maria Santos died 1987. Car accident last seen Des Moines, Iowa. Status terminated. I take a sip of my coffee and read the next one. Father Michael Toretti. Died 2003. Heart attack. Last seen. Buffalo, New York. Status terminated. The coffee is terrible. I buy the cheap stuff because I drink too much of it. And good coffee feels like a waste when you're spending your nights killing dead people for the Catholic Church. Not that I'm complaining about the work. The pay is excellent. And I've had worse jobs. Before this, I was a bounty hunter in Chicago for 12 years. Mostly skip traces and bail jumpers. Nothing exotic. I carried a .45 and brought people back who didn't want to come back. Standard stuff. I was good at finding people who didn't want to be found, which is apparently a skill that translates well to hunting the deceased. I got the job through Father Rodriguez. He was a client back when I was still doing regular bounty work. His nephew had skipped bail on a drug charge, and I brought him back in 3 days. Father Rodriguez paid my fee plus a bonus and asked if I'd be interested in other work. More specialized work, he said. Work that required someone comfortable with violence and a flexible understanding of mortality. I said, sure. I needed the money. That was 3 years ago. Since then, I've killed 41 people who were already dead. Killed is the right word this time. Put them down permanently. Sent them wherever dead people go when someone puts a blessed silver bullet through their skull. The thing about dead people is they don't always stay dead. Sometimes they come back confused. Sometimes they come back angry. And sometimes they come back violent enough that talking won't solve the problem. That's where I come in. I have a toolkit now. Holy water, of course. Blessed silver ammunition for my Glock and my Remington 870. A collection of religious artifacts from various denominations because you never know what's going to work on what. Carry salt, iron nails, and a combat knife that's been blessed by 3 different priests. The Vatican provided most of it along with a crash course in supernatural combat that was considerably more thorough than my military training. The dead don't follow normal rules. Regular bullets pass right through them. They can walk through walls when it suits them, but still bleed when you cut them with blessed steel. They feel pain, but don't die from blood loss, which makes interrogation complicated. Imagine trying to get information from someone who's already dead and knows you can't actually kill them. Takes creativity. My first case was Margaret Chat, a school teacher who died in 1995. She'd been showing up at her old elementary school every morning, but not to teach. She was killing the children, draining their life force during nap time, leaving them pale and weak. 3 kids had been hospitalized before the Vatican got involved. I found Margaret in classroom 3B, standing over a sleeping 6-year-old girl. The child was breathing, but barely. Her lips blue and her skin cold. Margaret looked exactly like her driver's license photo except for the black veins running under her translucent skin and the complete absence of anything human in her eyes. Margaret Chat, I said. She looked up and smiled. Her teeth were gray. Are you here about the substitute position? I'm afraid I don't need any help. Margaret, you died 28 years ago. Her smile widened. Death is just another kind of learning experience. I shot her in the chest with blessed silver. She staggered but didn't fall. Dead people are tough. That's very rude, Margaret said, looking down at the smoking hole in her blouse. I shot her again, this time in the head. She dropped like a sack of cement, black blood pooling around her skull. The temperature in the room returned to normal. The little girl's breathing improved immediately. I wrote up a report and sent it to Father Rodriguez. 3 days later, I got a check and another case file. Thomas Mitchell died 1989 possessing construction workers at his old job site and making them jump off buildings. The work isn't glamorous, but it's necessary. Dead people who stick around and turn violent cause problems for everyone. The living get killed. The dead get more powerful. And the longer they stay, the harder they become to put down permanently. I've learned to spot the signs. Unexplained deaths in patterns. Animals found dead and drained. Electronics shorting out in specific locations. Sometimes it's obvious. Like when someone calls to report their deceased grandmother eating the neighbors. Other times it's subtle. A persistent feeling that someone is hunting you. Items moving when no one is around. The smell of decay with no source. The Vatican keeps track of these reports. They have people in hospitals, police departments, and morgues. When someone dies violently or suddenly, especially someone with a history of violence, there's a chance they might come back wrong. Most people who die stay dead, which is how it should be. But some don't. And those are the ones who end up on my list. I pull out my phone and check the time. 8:30 in the morning. Early enough to start making calls. Late enough that I won't seem crazy for calling people before 9. I have 3 active cases right now, which is about average. More than 3 and I start making mistakes. Fewer than 3 and I get restless. Case number 1 is David Park. Died in a motorcycle accident 6 months ago. He's been appearing at motorcycle dealerships around Phoenix. But not to buy bikes. He's been killing the salesmen and wearing their faces. 3 dead so far. All found with their facial skin removed and no other signs of violence. Case number 2 is Rebecca Wu, died of cancer last year. She's been visiting her old chemotherapy treatment center. But not for treatment. She's been feeding on the life force of cancer patients, accelerating their deaths. The survival rate at Desert Hope Cancer Center has dropped 40% since she started showing up. Case number 3 is Vincent Torres. Died in his sleep 3 weeks ago. His wife called the Vatican hotline because he's been coming home every evening. But he's not the same person. He's been killing neighborhood pets and leaving them arranged in patterns in their backyard. When his wife tried to confront him, he broke her arm. I start with Vincent because he's the freshest case and still in the same city. The sooner you deal with the recently dead, the easier it is to put them down permanently. Wait too long and they develop immunities. Learn how to avoid blessed weapons. Sometimes even recruit other dead people to help them. I drive to the Torres house in my Honda Civic. The Vatican offered to provide a vehicle, but I declined. A government car draws attention and half my job is being invisible until it's time to start shooting. Mrs. Torres meets me at the door. She's in her 60s. Gray hair pulled back in a ponytail. Wearing a sweater that's too big for her. Her left arm is in a sling. She looks terrified. "Are you from the church?" she asks. "Yes, ma'am. I'm here about Vincent." She invites me in. The house smells like coffee and something else. Something rotting. Family photos line the hallway. But someone has scratched out Vincent's face in every picture. Recent edition. I'm guessing. He's not the same. Mrs. Torres says he looks like Vincent. Sounds like Vincent. But he's different. Cruel. He never used to hurt animals. When does he usually appear? 6 o'clock every evening. Just like when he was alive. But now he brings things. Dead things. She shows me to the backyard through the kitchen window. The lawn is covered with small animal corpses arranged in a pentagram pattern. Cats, dogs, rabbits, all drained of blood. The smell is getting worse. Does he speak to you? Only once. When I asked him to stop, he grabbed my arm and said, "Death is better than what we had." Then he twisted until it broke. I understand 40 years of marriage doesn't end just because someone dies. But sometimes what comes back isn't the person you married. I need to be here when he arrives. I tell her, can you stay somewhere else tonight? Mrs. Torres nods. My sister lives across town. But will you hurt him? Yes. Ma'am. I'm going to kill him. She looks relieved instead of horrified. Good. She understands the situation. Mrs. Torres packs an overnight bag and gives me her phone number. I spend the afternoon walking through the house, getting familiar with the layout. The living room faces the front door. Vincent's chair is positioned so he can see the television and the backyard where he's been arranging his kills. There's a side table with a lamp, a coaster for his coffee, and scratch marks in the wood that look like claw marks. I set up my equipment in the kitchen. Holy water, salt, blessed ammunition. I load my Glock with silver bullets and chamber around. I position my shotgun near the back door in case he tries to run. At 5:30, I turn on the television and sit on the couch. The news is depressing as usual. A factory fire, political scandal, a car accident that killed 3 people. I wonder if any of them will end up on my list. At exactly 6 o'clock, the front door opens. Vincent Torres walks into his living room, hangs his jacket on a hook by the door, and sits down in his recliner. He looks solid, real, except for the black veins visible under his skin and the fact that he's carrying a dead cat. Vincent, I say. He turns toward me. His eyes are solid black. No iris or pupil visible. His smile reveals teeth that are too sharp. You're not Maria, he says. His voice sounds like Vincent's voice played through a broken speaker. No, I'm here to kill you. Vincent laughs. I'm already dead. I'm gonna make it permanent. You can try. Vincent stands up and throws the dead cat at me. I duck and draw my Glock, putting 3 rounds center mass. The blessed silver burns holes through his chest. Black smoke rising from the wounds. He staggers but doesn't fall. That stings, Vincent says. He rushes me faster than any living person could move. I dive left and roll behind the couch as Vincent's claws tear through the fabric where my head had been. Dead people are stronger than they look. I come up shooting, putting 2 more rounds into his head. This time, he drops. Black blood spreading across Mrs. Torres's hardwood floor. I keep my gun trained on him while I catch my breath. Vincent's body twitches, then sits up. The bullet holes in his skull are already closing. My turn, he says. Vincent leaps over the couch and lands on top of me. His claws rake across my vest, tearing through the Kevlar like paper. I manage to get my combat knife out and drive it into his neck. The blessed steel burns his flesh and he screams in a voice that doesn't sound human. I twist the knife and Vincent's head comes halfway off. He falls backward, clutching his throat. Black blood pours between his fingers. Blessed steel, I tell him, hurts worse than bullets. Vincent tries to speak, but only makes gurgling sounds. I stand up and put my boot on his chest, then grab his head and twist until something snaps. His body goes limp. I wait 10 minutes to make sure he's really gone this time. The black veins under his skin fade and his eyes return to normal brown. The temperature in the room rises. The smell of decay disappears. I call Mrs. Torres to let her know she can come home tomorrow. I'll have a cleaning crew remove the body and the animal corpses tonight. The Vatican has people for that. This was an easy one. Vincent was newly dead, still adjusting to his condition. He fought like someone who was used to being alive. The older ones are smarter, more dangerous. They learn to use their abilities strategically instead of just rushing in with claws out. I pack up my equipment and head for the airport. Tomorrow, I'll fly to Phoenix to deal with David Park and his face-collecting hobby. Then on to the cancer center to put down Rebecca Wu before she kills any more patients. The dead don't get easier to kill with experience. If anything, they get harder, but I get better at killing them, which amounts to the same thing. I drive through late evening traffic, listening to talk radio and thinking about Mrs. Torres. Tomorrow she'll wake up in a house that doesn't smell like death, where the photos on the wall haven't been defaced, where her husband's memory can rest in peace instead of being corrupted by whatever came back wearing his face. Small victories, maybe, but in this line of work, you take what you can get, especially when what you can get involves putting monsters back in the ground where they belong. The next morning, I fly to Phoenix to deal with David Park. Motorcycle dealerships are a new hunting ground for me. I've killed dead people in hospitals, schools, offices, and homes, but never a place where they're harvesting faces from salesmen. I start with Southwest Cycles, a Harley-Davidson dealer on the north side of town. The manager, Rick, is a heavy-set guy with a gray beard and arms covered in tattoos. He looks like someone who sold motorcycles his entire adult life and recently watched 3 of his employees get murdered. "You're here about the dead guy?" Rick asks when I show him my Vatican credentials. "David Park." "Yes." Rick leads me into his office and closes the door. The blinds are drawn and there's a shotgun leaning against his desk. "Look, I don't know what kind of thing this is, but it's getting people killed." Guy comes in, looks normal enough, starts talking bikes with my salesman. Next thing I know, my employee is dead, and this Park guy is wearing his face. What does he look like when he's not wearing someone else's face? Asian guy, maybe 30, leather jacket, jeans, boots. Except his face keeps shifting like he can't decide what he wants to look like and he doesn't cast a shadow. "Any security footage?" Rick shakes his head. Cameras show my salesman talking to empty air, then collapsing. But we all see Park clear as day. Even shook his hand once before I knew what he was. What did that feel like? Like shaking hands with a corpse. Cold and wrong. Rick picks up his shotgun. "I've been carrying this ever since. Regular shells. Though, will that work?" "No. You need blessed silver. Regular ammunition won't stop him." I ask for details about the 3 murders. All happened the same way. David would enter the dealership, browse motorcycles for an hour or so, then approach a salesman about financing. During the conversation, the salesman would collapse. David would spend a few minutes crouched over the body, then stand up wearing the dead man's face. He'd walk out through the front door and disappear. When does he usually come in? Afternoons around 2 o'clock. Says he gets off work early. I check my watch. It's 11:30. Mind if I wait around? Rick shows me to a chair in the showroom and brings me coffee that tastes like it was made yesterday. I sit between a Sportster and a fat boy, reading motorcycle magazines and checking my weapons. Glock loaded with blessed silver. Combat knife on my belt. Vial of holy water in my jacket pocket. At exactly 2 o'clock, David Park walks through the front door. He looks like his DMV photo, except for the translucent quality and the complete absence of a shadow. Today, he's wearing the face of Rick's most recent dead employee, a kid named Tommy who died 3 days ago. The face doesn't fit quite right, like a mask that's slightly too small. "Rick," David calls out. "I'm back." Rick appears from his office, staying well back from the sales floor. "David. Hey. Still interested in financing?" "Absolutely. Is Tommy around?" "He was helping me with the paperwork." "Tommy's not available," I say, standing up. David turns toward me. His stolen face shifts slightly, the features rearranging themselves. "Do I know you? My name is Joe. I'm here to kill you." David laughs. "You can't kill someone who's already dead. Watch me." I draw my Glock and put 2 rounds center mass. The blessed silver tears through David's chest. Black smoke rising from the wounds. He staggers backward into a display of motorcycle accessories. That's not very friendly, David says, looking down at the holes in his jacket. The stolen face begins to melt, sliding off his skull like wax. Underneath is something that might have been human once but isn't anymore. Gray skin, black veins, eyes that are solid white with no iris or pupil. This is my real face, David says. Do you like it better? He rushes me with inhuman speed. I dive behind a Sportster as David's claws tear through the seat where I'd been standing. Motorcycle parts scatter across the floor. I come up shooting, putting 3 more rounds into his head. This time, he goes down hard. Black blood spreading across the showroom floor. I keep my gun trained on him while I reload. David's body convulses, then sits up. The bullet holes are already healing. My turn, he says. David leaps onto the Sportster and uses it as a springboard to launch himself at me. I roll left and his claws rake across my back, tearing through my jacket. I spin and drive my combat knife into his kidney. The blessed steel burns his flesh and he screams. Hurts, doesn't it? I say, twisting the blade. David swipes at me with his claws, catching me across the face. 3 parallel cuts open from my temple to my jaw. I grab a motorcycle chain from the scattered accessories and wrap it around David's neck, pulling tight. This chain's been blessed. I lie. It hasn't. But David doesn't know that. He claws at the chain, trying to break free. But I keep pulling. Dead people don't need to breathe. But they can still be strangled if you use enough force. David's struggles become weaker. I draw my knife and drive it into the base of his skull, twisting until I feel vertebrae separate. David goes limp, his body collapsing onto the showroom floor. This time he stays down. The gray skin fades to normal color and his eyes become brown and human again. The temperature in the showroom returns to normal. Rick emerges from his office, shotgun still in hand. Is it over? It's over. What about Tommy's face? The one he was wearing. I looked down at David's corpse. Tommy's face had completely melted away when David died, leaving nothing but a puddle of organic matter on the floor. Tommy's face died with him. I'm sorry. Rick nods. Tommy was a good kid. Didn't deserve that. I pack up my equipment and give Rick the Vatican's card for cleanup services. They'll remove David's body and sanitize the crime scene. By tomorrow morning, Southwest Cycles will be open for business again. Will there be more of them? Rick asks. Maybe. If there are, call this number immediately. Don't try to handle it yourself. I drive across town to Desert Hope Cancer Center, a modern building with too much glass and not enough parking. I find Dr. Sarah Kim in her office reviewing patient files with a security guard standing behind her. You're here about Rebecca Wu. Dr. Kim says before I can introduce myself. Yes. She's been dead for 8 months. But she keeps showing up for treatments and killing our patients. Dr. Kim shows me Rebecca's file. 43 years old. Diagnosed 18 months ago. Fought hard. Died at home with her family. Standard cancer story. Except for the part where she came back as a life-threatening monster. When does she appear? Tuesday afternoons. Always at 2:15. She checks in at the front desk. Takes a seat in the waiting room. Then starts feeding. We've lost 6 patients in the last month. Does she speak to anyone? She'll say hello if someone talks to her first. But mostly she just sits and drains the life out of people. Always the same chair. Always the same routine. Dr. Kim takes me to the waiting room. A space that should be cheerful, but feels like a morgue. The chair Rebecca prefers faces the reception desk position so she can see all the patients clearly. We've tried moving the chair, but she just stands there and feeds anyway. We've tried closing on Tuesdays, but she appears in the parking lot and kills people going to their cars. What exactly does she do to them? Touches them. A handshake. A pat on the shoulder. Helping them with their coat. Contact lasts maybe 5 seconds. Then the patient collapses. They're dead within minutes. Heart failure. The coroner says. But these are people who were responding well to treatment. I spend the rest of the afternoon researching Rebecca Wu and preparing my equipment. According to her obituary, she was a kindergarten teacher, married with 2 young children. She volunteered at animal shelters and ran half marathons before she got sick. The kind of person who would fight cancer with positive thinking and an unshakable belief that things would get better. Her husband posted updates on social media throughout her illness. Rebecca staying strong through chemotherapy. Rebecca responding well to treatment. Rebecca fighting until the end. Maybe she fought too hard. Maybe death couldn't contain that much determination. Tuesday afternoon. I'm back in the waiting room at 2 o'clock. Sitting in a chair with a clear view of the entrance. The place is busy with real patients receiving real treatments. An elderly man reads a newspaper. A woman around my age knits something small and blue. Everyone moves carefully like they know death is hunting them. At exactly 2:15, Rebecca Wu walks through the front door. She looks better than her patient photos. Healthy color in her face. Thick dark hair. Moving without the careful precision of someone managing pain. She's wearing a yellow sundress and sandals. Clothes for someone who expects to be alive for a long time. But her eyes are solid black and black veins run under her skin like a roadmap to hell. Rebecca checks in at the front desk. The receptionist, a young woman named Melissa, smiles and nods as if this is completely normal. Rebecca. Wu for Dr. Kim. 2:15. Rebecca says, "Of course. Please have a seat and we'll call you when we're ready." Rebecca takes her usual chair and looks around the waiting room. Her gaze settles on the elderly man with the newspaper. She stands up and walks over to him. "Excuse me," Rebecca says. "Are you comfortable? Can I help you with anything?" The old man looks up and smiles. "That's very kind. Dear, I'm fine. Thank you." Rebecca reaches out to pat his shoulder. I shoot her in the back of the head before she makes contact. The blessed silver explodes her skull in a spray of black blood and brain matter. Her body pitches forward onto the elderly man who starts screaming. The waiting room erupts in chaos. "Everyone out," I shout, standing up with my gun drawn. Medical emergency. Patients and staff flee through the exits. The elderly man struggles out from under Rebecca's corpse, covered in black blood, but otherwise unharmed. I help him to his feet and point him toward the door. "Are you hurt?" I ask. "I don't think so." "What was wrong with her?" "She was dead." The old man nods as if this makes perfect sense. Cancer patients understand mortality better than most people. Rebecca's body starts to twitch. I put 3 more rounds into her head. But she sits up anyway. Half her skull is missing. But she's still moving. "That wasn't very nice," Rebecca says. Her voice sounds like it's coming from underwater. She lunges at me with claws that definitely weren't part of her original anatomy. I dodge and drive my combat knife into her chest, aiming for the heart. The blessed steel burns her flesh, and she screams in a voice that sounds like 1,000 people dying at once. "I was just trying to help," Rebecca says, black blood frothing from her mouth. "You were killing them. I was taking their pain away." I twist the knife and Rebecca's scream becomes a whistle. Then silence. Her body collapses and doesn't get back up. The black veins under her skin fade and her eyes return to normal brown. Dr. Kim appears in the doorway, flanked by security guards. "Is it over?" she asks. "It's over." "What about the patients she touched before today? They're really dead." "I'm sorry, Dr. Kim nods. "At least she won't kill anyone else." I pack up my equipment and give Dr. Kim the Vatican's cleanup number. They'll sanitize the crime scene and handle Rebecca's body. By tomorrow, Desert Hope Cancer Center will be treating living patients again. Will there be more of them? Dr. Kim asks. Maybe. If there are, call this number immediately. Don't try to reason with them. I drive back to my hotel through Phoenix traffic, listening to talk radio and thinking about determination. Rebecca Wu had fought cancer so hard that she couldn't stop fighting even after she died. David Park had died chasing a better life and came back to steal other people's lives. Vincent Torres had died peacefully but came back violent. Death changes people usually for the worse. The part of them that comes back isn't always the part that deserves to survive. Tomorrow I'll fly to my next case. The list never gets shorter. Only longer. But that's fine. I'm good at my job. And my job is putting monsters back in the ground where they belong. The dead should stay dead. When they don't, I make sure they regret it. 3 weeks later, I get a call that changes everything. Father Rodriguez sounds stressed, which is unusual. In 3 years of working together, I've never heard him anything but calm and professional. Today, he's talking fast and stumbling over words. We have a situation, he says. Priority case. I'm sending you a file. What kind of situation? The kind that makes the news if we don't handle it quickly and the kind that might kill you. The file arrives in my email 10 minutes later. Marcus Webb died 6 weeks ago in a warehouse fire. Last seen downtown Portland, Oregon. The attached police reports make for uncomfortable reading. Marcus was an arsonist. 12 convictions. 8 years in prison. Died when one of his own fires got out of control. According to the Portland Fire Department, he was trying to burn down a furniture warehouse for insurance money when the building collapsed on him. They found his body in the basement, surrounded by accelerant and burned beyond recognition. The problem is that Marcus has been setting fires since he died. 7 buildings in 6 weeks. 3 fatalities so far, including 2 firefighters who burned alive in a trap Marcus set for them. The Portland Fire Marshal is calling it terrorism. The FBI is sending a task force. And Marcus keeps killing because burning people alive is what he knows how to do. I book a flight to Portland and pack extra equipment. Silver bullets, blessed steel, holy water, and something Father Rodriguez suggested. White phosphorus rounds that have been blessed by the Pope himself. I also bring body armor and a fire extinguisher, which seems practical given the circumstances. Portland in February is gray and wet, which should have been good for dealing with a dead arsonist. Except Marcus doesn't need dry conditions anymore. He can start fires in the rain. I drive to the site of Marcus' most recent kill, an apartment building that burned 3 days ago. 12 families lost their homes. A mother and her infant daughter didn't make it out. The building is a blackened skeleton. Melted steel. Collapsed walls. The smell of smoke. And burned flesh hanging in the air. I walk around the perimeter looking for signs of supernatural activity. The temperature is wrong. Too warm for February. Like the fire is still burning somewhere invisible. Marcus enjoyed his work. I meet with Fire Marshal Janet Clark at a coffee shop near the fire station. She's in her 40s. Exhausted and scared of a case that doesn't make sense. 7 fires in 6 weeks. She says. All the same signature. Same accelerant pattern. Same ignition method. But it's getting worse. Worse how? The fires are hotter now. Burning through materials that shouldn't burn. And he started targeting occupied buildings. The last 3 fires. He waited until people were inside. Security cameras pick up movement around the buildings before the fires. But never a clear image. Witnesses see someone. But they all describe the same thing. A man covered in burns moving through the flames without being consumed because he's already been burned to death. Marshall Clark gives me a look. You're one of those federal consultants, aren't you? The ones who handle weird cases. Something like that. I don't correct her assumption. The Vatican has arrangements with various law enforcement agencies, but the details are classified above my pay grade. Any pattern to the targets. Ask. All buildings that could house families. Apartments. Hotels. Nursing homes. It's like he wants to burn people alive. He does. He died in a fire. Now he wants other people to experience the same thing. Why would someone want that? Because death makes people cruel. The part of them that comes back isn't always the part that was human. Marshall Clark shows me a map of the fires. They're clustered in an industrial area east of downtown, moving in a spiral pattern toward the city center. If the pattern holds, he'll hit something in this area next, she says, pointing to a residential district. I spend the afternoon driving through the target area, looking for buildings that match Marcus' new preferences. Families, children, people who can't escape quickly. I find 3 possibilities and decide to stake out the most likely candidate. A low-income housing complex that backs up to a chemical plant. That evening, I park across the street and wait. I've brought coffee, sandwiches, and enough ammunition to fight a small war. The complex is busy with families coming home from work and school. Perfect target for someone who likes to burn people alive. At 11:30, Marcus Webb appears. He materializes in the parking lot like smoke becoming solid. He's wearing the same clothes he died in. Work boots and jeans. A flannel shirt that's permanently on fire but never burns away. His skin is charred black, melted in places with white bone visible through gaps in his flesh. Marcus walks around the perimeter of the building, checking for fire exits and emergency lighting. He moves with purpose. Someone who's done this many times before. He stops at a utility closet and produces a crowbar from somewhere. I get out of my car and cross the street. Marcus Webb. He turns toward me without surprise. His face is mostly gone. Just a skull with scraps of burned flesh hanging from it. You're not a cop. No. Fire marshal. No. Then who the hell are you? Someone who's here to kill you. Marcus laughs. A sound like logs crackling in a fireplace. Good luck with that. I'm already dead. I'm gonna make it permanent. You can try, but you'll burn like everyone else. Marcus raises his hand and flames shoot from his fingertips. I dive behind a parked car as the fire washes over where I'd been standing. The car's paint blisters and bubbles from the heat. I come up shooting, putting 6 rounds of blessed silver into Marcus' chest and head. The bullets tear through his burned flesh, but he doesn't fall. Black smoke rises from the wounds. Silver tickles. Marcus says, but fire burns. He points at me again, and my jacket catches fire. I roll on the ground, trying to smother the flames, while Marcus laughs. The fire is hot enough to melt steel, but it goes out when I pour holy water on it. Blessed water. Marcus asks. That's cute. I draw my combat knife and charge him. The blessed steel cuts through his burned flesh like butter, opening a gash from his collarbone to his sternum. Marcus screams and staggers backward. Blessed steel hurts worse than silver. I tell him, everything hurts when you're burned alive. Marcus replies. He grabs my wrist and his touch ignites my sleeve. I twist away and drive the knife into his skull, aiming for the brain. The blade punches through charred bone and Marcus drops to his knees. Stay down, I say. Marcus looks up at me with eye sockets that are empty except for flickering flames. You know what I realized when I died in that fire? What? Burning alive is the worst way to die. The pain is indescribable. I want everyone to know what that feels like. Marcus pulls my knife out of his skull and stands up. The wound closes immediately, bone and flesh growing back like time-lapse photography. Regular blessed weapons won't work on me. He says, fire purifies everything, even holy metal. I reach into my jacket and pull out one of the white phosphorus rounds Father Rodriguez gave me. Special ammunition blessed by the Pope designed for cases like this. Let's try something different, I say. I load the round into my Glock and put it through Marcus' forehead. The white phosphorus explodes inside his skull, burning at over 1,500 degrees. Marcus' scream could wake the dead. His head catches fire from the inside out, flames pouring from his eye sockets and mouth. He claws at his face, trying to put out a fire that can't be extinguished. The phosphorus burns through his brain. His spine spreads down through his chest cavity. How does it feel? I ask. Marcus tries to answer, but his vocal cords have melted. He falls forward, his body consumed by chemical fire that burns hotter than anything he could create. The flames turn from orange to white to blue, then finally go out. Nothing remains but a pile of ash and melted bone. The apartment complex is safe. No families burned alive tonight. No children dying in their beds while their parents try desperately to reach them through smoke and flame. I call Father Rodriguez to report that Marcus Webb has been permanently terminated. The FBI can close their case and the fire marshal can get some sleep. Portland is safe from its dead arsonist. Was he difficult? Father Rodriguez asks. Very. Regular blessed weapons weren't enough. Had to use the papal rounds. We thought that might be the case. Some of the older ones develop immunities. How much older? Marcus was 6 weeks dead. We have cases that are 6 decades dead. They get stronger the longer they stay. I get a new list the following week. 25 names this time, scattered across 18 states. Robert Brown died in a swimming accident. Drowning lifeguards at public pools. Jennifer Walsh died in surgery performing fatal operations on living patients. Frank Morrison died in a car crash causing accidents by possessing drivers. The usual cases. People who died with unfinished business and came back wrong. People who don't understand they're dead and don't care if they kill the living. People who need to be put down with extreme force before they hurt anyone else. I fold the new list and put it in my kitchen drawer, right next to the takeout menus and dead batteries. Tomorrow, I'll start making calls, booking flights, packing my kit. But tonight, I'm going to sit on my couch, drink a beer, and watch television like any living person who's tired after a long day of killing monsters. The dead will keep being dead whether I'm there or not. But if they come back wrong, if they start hurting people, then I'll be there to put them down. That's the thing about death. It should be permanent. When it's not, that's where I come in. I open a beer and turn on the news. Somewhere in Portland, an apartment complex full of families is sleeping safely. Somewhere in Phoenix, a motorcycle dealership is selling bikes to people who aren't wearing stolen faces. Somewhere in Phoenix, a cancer center is treating patients who won't be drained of life force. Good people are alive because bad dead people are finally permanently dead. The beer is cold and the couch is comfortable. My guns are cleaned and loaded. My knives are sharp and blessed. And my ammunition box is full of silver bullets and paper phosphorus rounds. Tomorrow there will be more dead people to kill. But tonight, the living world is a little bit safer because monsters stay buried when someone puts enough blessed metal through their skulls. In this line of work, that's victory enough. Thank you for listening to this entry from the Wilderness Protocol. If you made it through this report and wish to be briefed on future incidents, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel.